Once upon a time, when the world was young and voices were bright with the thrill of first light, people walked with open hands and open hearts. They sang to the river, bargained with the wind, and trusted the paths their feet made. Joy was the hearth fire, and hope sat on every doorstep. But the world is not only light. Night gathers in the hollows of mountains. Storms learn languages that stones cannot speak. One autumn, when a harvest failed and a child wandered too far into the birch wood, a silence like a shadow slipped into the spaces between hearth and door. It took no shape at first, only a cool hush, a quickening of breath, a small footfall that was not their own. The people called it nothing, and it became everything. Fear came not as an enemy, but as a visitor. It pressed itself against the chest of the mother who listened at a window. It turned the laughter of the market into a careful whisper. It taught the young to measure distance and the old to keep watch. Fear learned the ways of those it touched. It learned to wear grief's coat, to borrow the voice of warning, to echo the doubts of a tired heart. It found a place to rest, a thin crack in a trusting home, and settled there quietly at first, then like ivy, patient and determined. In time, fear made itself a house among men. Rooms of caution, attics of memory where old hurts were stacked like boxes, basements where might-have-beens lay in the dark. It did not always ravage. Often it sheltered. It whispered of danger and of prudence, of boundaries that kept children from cliff edges and ships from reefs. It taught farmers to store grain for winter and travelers to read the stars. Fear, in its cold clarity, was a kind of craft, the mind sharpened by the possibility of loss. But fear is an artisan of extremes. Left alone, it grew jealous of hope. It braided doubt into decisions, and suspicion into the fabric of friendships. Where wonder once led, fear began to stand sentinel, closing doors to risk and narrowing roads to only the safest trails. The people found themselves with many protections and fewer songs. Then there were those who, having learned fear's language, learned to answer it. They did not try to exile the visitor. Impossible, for fear had become part of the household. But they learned to host it differently. They lit lamps and put them in the hallways of their minds, so fear's shadows had less room to stretch. They named the thing that trembled and, in naming, made it a smaller beast. They taught their children that fear could be a compass, not a chain, but a signpost that must be read with wisdom, not obeyed without question. From that learning came courage, not the absence of fear, but the choice to walk with it. Courage put a lantern in one hand and fear's steadying hand in the other. It turned caution into careful bravery and suspicion into curiosity. It built bridges where fear had hollowed chasms. When fear rose to roar, courage spoke softer. I see you, and stepped forward anyway. So fear came to dwell among men, not as a thief, but as a teacher who forgets sometimes to be kind. It came to keep watch, and if left unchecked, to lock the doors. The realm of the wise is not the realm without fear, but the realm that knows how to attend to it, to listen, to learn, and to act. Fear, when rightly fed with understanding and tempered by love, becomes the fire that forges resolve. Remember this every daring voyage, every new word spoken, every hand taken across a gap began with a flicker of fear. It was the spark that demanded respect. Draw near to it. Hold it close as a tool rather than a tyrant, and let it teach you where to be prudent and when to leap. In that balance, fear will not dwell to devour, but to dwell as a companion.